to the Motown Show. I'm Shruti Sharma, and this is the show where we just don't talk mobility, we actually ride it. And today we are on a very special ride. Like you can see that we are riding a brand that carries heritage in its DNA and has the real nostalgia in its sound. And today we're going to be talking about a brand that is really revving up the legends. So let's get it started, and let me welcome the very special guest onto the show who is exactly at the center rebuilding these brands. And as you can see that we are riding this beauty, and who better than Anupam Thareja is with us. So let's get started. But Anupam, before we talk business, tell me that which one is your favorite patch to drive, which area and which part?
In Bombay, if you ask me, not much. But Bombay in the morning, early morning, or Bombay in the night, I can take you for Irani chai in the morning and nice kebabs in the night. That's the way to do Bombay. But if you want other parts, I would say south, probably Mysore to Purgat this time. East, coastlines of Orissa, Gopalpur, Puri, Konark. Central, west, I would say right now Raipur to Kana would be awesome.
Wow.
And north, of course. You can't take the mountains away. I can tell you 1,000 places.
Winters.
And the winters. Yeah.
Lovely.
So, and explore Seven Sisters before I explore.
No, but it's a sundowner. I think it's a good time for coffee.
Sundowners, coffee, okay. Let's go to the dealership. Coffee, conversation, and motorcycles can't get better than that.
Absolutely. Let's get it started.
All right, let's get started.
So Anupam, that was a fun ride, but let me just start with your key brands, because Classic Legends is all about those iconic brands, and you have got 3 in your basket. So firstly, tell us that what was the vision behind like really reviving these brands, and also how do you manage nostalgia with today's customer expectation?
Too many questions in one question, but let me start with the brands. You know, they say it's one of the most difficult things to do is make a brand or build a brand. You can build a product, you can launch it, you can do advertisement and make people aware of it. But does that mean you made a brand? I don't think so, because brand is way more complicated, way more complex, way more deeper than that. So in my mind, a brand is a customer promise fulfilled consistently over a long period of time. Now, if that is the brand, then it'll take years and years to make a brand, because you have to first make a promise, then fulfill it, then consistently, and then over a long period of time. Another way to do it is buy a brand, which at some stage fulfill this criteria, and then be very honest about it. You can't buy a brand and make any product and put a sticker job or do a slapstick on it. That won't work. Then your second question, if that is the case, then why 3? Right. So let me put it the other way to you. Making a motorcycle company in today's era, particularly when it's so complicated and so competitive and so crowded, from a strategy point of view, doesn't make any sense, right? But if you are going there, you need to do something audacious, something really authentic. Add one more complexity. As if this was not enough, we added one more complexity. And the third complexity was we'll be global from day one. Right? So we're not gonna take advantage and milk this large Indian market, build some base, and then start, proliferating ourselves in the global market. In fact, I don't know whether you know, this bike which I'm sitting on, the BSA Gold Star, was actually first launched in UK and then launched in India. So that's the confidence we have in India, in our product, in our brands. To answer your question, we want to attack the world, and we have divided the world into 3 parts. One is India, which is the world's largest two-wheeler market, and growing and premiumizing, evolving. The second is the Western world, which is high-paying, very evolved, knows the bike, but shrinking. And the third is the Latin America, the Eastern Europe, which if you go pre-World War II was the communist countries, if you may. I have to be very careful of not being woke, but so Jawa was the largest brand in Eastern Europe and parts of South America. So that's how we bought Jawa. Yezdi was the largest brand in India at one point of time. That's why we bought Yezdi. And VSA was the world's largest motorcycle player, but largely dominated by the Western world because that was the only market at that point of time, till 80s. So this is how we got the three brands. So human mind is a very, very expensive real estate. So when we launch a bike in US or in Western Europe, we don't need to tell them what is BSA. It's a smile on their face and say, wow, BSA is back. Like when we go to Eastern Europe, they say, oh my God, Jawa is back, or Jawa, as they say. Similarly, the bike you're sitting on, you know, the kind of fan following we get just by saying, oh, Yezdi is back. So if you look at these three parts of the world, one is one country, but the largest in the world, one is the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. So we are not cross-proliferating the brands, apart from India. And in India, we have differentiated on a very clear parameters, but everywhere else in the world, either there'll be a Jawa or a BSA. Yezdi will not be outside the country. Yezdi is only a brand for India. So Southeast Asia will be largely Jawa and BSA. The developed Asia, like Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, will be BSAs. The rest will be Jawa, and then the rest of the world. So brand is not just for nostalgia, right? That is one pillar, important pillar, a very honest pillar for us. But that cannot be the only pillar for us, right? We are here to contemporize the classic. So when you sit on a brand, when you feel a brand, we'll create an environment that will evoke your emotions. But beyond that, under the hood, every parameter of modern tech, safety, features, in fact futuristic, is what we should be. You know, it's easy to say they were old, or good old brands, but there was nothing good or old about them, right, at that time when they were good and old, right? They were actually very contemporary and cutting edge in their time. So that's what they should be. So I think people confuse between classic and retros. These are not retro bikes. These are classic brands with classic design, but these are very modern bikes, and that's what we are here to contemporize the classics.
All right, that's about the basic strategy on which you're working with, and you really got us some sense that how you relate with the classics and the future technology. But now let's talk about India, because India as a market is already quite cluttered, and you know with whom you are competing with. You have quite established players right there, and now you are getting these three iconic brands to build bigger in India as well as in exports. But what's the strategy for India? How do you differentiate yourself versus some of those other players, and most of them are listed as well?
So there are two parts to this strategy. Part one, just because you have a brand, that doesn't mean it's relevant for the consumer here. For example, the world's largest brand may come here, but where has my consumer seen them? They've seen them in a movie or on a poster. Whereas if you look at Yezdi, which you are sitting on, this is where you have real stories, right? And who is the most powerful man in the world? I think the most powerful man in the world is the best storyteller, right? And brands have to tell a story. Now, this is a bike on which you can ask a person, he will say, my uncle or my elder brother or my father. This is where, you know, they got their first job, they got their first paycheck, the first fall, the first kiss, the first love. It all happened on this bike. So this is not a poster bike. This was a real thing which is still parked in garages. It is still a part of community. So when we launched this brand, we didn't start a community. We actually gave something to a nourished community. There were already 28 clubs all across the country. Now we have made them more than 60. And those guys were riding old Yezdis and old Jawas, right? And then suddenly the bike which they want, which they have dreamt about, is there, and it's back in this format. So that's one part. When we say Yezdi is back, we are back. All the other brands are not back, they're coming in, right? So when you're telling a story of a nostalgia or a past, then that past has to be as honest as the brand, right? So that's one part of it. The second part of it is, most of the global brands are trying to get their global products into India. No, that's not, or they are trying to copy the formula, the playbook which was successful. We are being honest to the brand. Even in good old days when there were all the brands, we stood for something. We stood for performance classics. These were the fastest bikes at that time in that era. So in the classic genre, if you ask, now we are the fastest and the most powerful bikes, right? We are 30 bhp on a 300cc engines, a 30 bhp, 30 Newton meter torque, right? So we did not say, hey, classics are winning, this is a playbook, let's follow. We said, no, this is a brand, it's coming back, let's stick to the honesty. So the part that we made it for India, we made it honestly, we stayed true to the brand.
But now let's talk numbers then, because we got your strategy, we got an understanding that what's really building in classic legends, but how are the numbers growing, and especially after the GST reforms, because I believe that you have been one of those biggest beneficiaries of the GST cut, and that's very heartening to note. But how is the excitement really on ground? If you can give us some sense on the industry growth, and especially for September, how is the business looking like?
It's a great question, because this industry was reeling for years. And then suddenly our finance minister gave us that bonanza, and it turned the industry. As you say, sometimes the flywheel turns. The flywheel turned, right? Two-wheelers have done very well. And within the two-wheelers, the premium segment has done even better, which is a particular segment. And within the premium segment, the classics have done very well, right? So we got the benefit of the tailwind. In fact, almost 95% of our bikes got the benefit of the GST cut. And we passed on fully. We were the first one to announce the passing on, and we passed it on fully. So the answer to your number is we've grown 100%, and we are growing 100%. In fact, even this month we'll be doubling. But frankly, given the low base we are coming from, the percentages don't matter. What matters for me is the fact that a premium offering made affordable and then grew so fast actually told you that the customers were looking for it, and they just needed a reason, which was given by our finance minister. So to my mind, this is the segment. I think two-wheelers will grow for many reasons and macro reasons, which we can get into if you want. But within the two-wheelers, I'm reasonably sure that the premium segment will do better. And within the premium segment, anything that's lifestyle biased, right? Community biased, place where people can belong. Because in this world where all our necks are 24 times down, this is the place where you sit upright and get that the wind on the face.
All right, but what about your export plans? Because we just talked about India, and we have so many stories to get back to. But you were just touching to the point that how these brands have been a big global brands. So with the re-entry, what's the response there, and what are the big plans?
To my mind, we will be a company from India, a global motorcycle company, which actually probably will be 50% exports and 50% domestic. Now, after saying that, let me give you the numbers. In Australia, we are entering South America in the coming season. Don't talk about US. It's a very touchy and a sour topic for us right now, because the bikes are standing in the port for the last 7 months and or last 6 months and standing there. But we don't build a company at a point of time for a regulation. So if you ask us, Jawa will be a very relevant brand in the South American and Eastern European markets. And by the end of the year, or by the beginning of the next selling season, I think we will have equal dealers globally than in India. And by the end of next year, we will have more dealers outside India than in India. So I'll give you a number. We'll have 500 dealers to the start of the season globally, and we'll have 500 dealers in India. By the end of the year, when we go into South American markets and we penetrate into Northern Africa and the part of Southeast Asia, we actually may have 3x more dealers outside. So our strategy will be crazy, and I think you can pretty much come see me and say that's a word that fits. But I would say it's a well thought through audacious strategy, and we are pretty much executing that to the way we wanted it to.
But Anupam, I had one question, because you say that 50% of your overall sales you wish to drive from exports, and that is the big plan. But I see that most of the other companies are also focusing more on the exports right now. Why not India, and why the overseas market?
No, so it's not one versus the other, right? It's obvious that the numbers are here, right? We are the world's largest two-wheeler market, right? No questions, no bias. In fact, not only the largest, but largest and growing, whereas others have just become irrelevant in terms of absolute numbers. So I'll give you an example. Europe is 1.2 million two-wheelers in a year. But Europe has an advantage of a price point. It's an evolved market, so you have everybody playing there at a price point which is probably 3x or 4x of India. Now, when you go there, you have the space to go into next level technologies. So you go into those next level technologies, you learn them, and then you make sure through value engineering, through volumes, through understanding, you keep on knocking the price down and you make it relevant in India. They are there in India, but the price points are too high for Indian market. So the trick of the trade, and that's why we are the winner combination. There are lots of 650cc which I'm sitting on in the world. But is there a 650cc with this kind of cost and quality at this price? Impossible. So the trick of India is the cost quality at a price point, right? Now, it's impossible. People say that you can get cost or quality or speed. You can get only two, pick one. I'm saying Indians are so good at this that we can do all the three at a price point which is incomparable. Now, once we have done that, what people do is they make that large base and then they can experiment with that little percentage outside, which is a good business strategy.
All right, good to know that. But Anupam, how are you planning to expand your dealerships in India? What are the plans?
If something is there which is relevant for my customer, which benefits him, we're gonna be the first one, the most nimble ones to go and adapt that. So our strategy is going to be both online and offline. 500 primary dealerships. You are sitting in one of them in Bandra, Bombay. And yeah, we're going to give you a lifestyle experience at every touch point, and like we are giving you here. So India 500, global 500, so 1,000 in April when we next meet. And by the end of the year, we'll be more global, though the sales of the motorcycle will be way larger here. It's just the size of the market.
All right, looking forward to that. But Anupam, so good having you on the channel today. Thank you so much.
Likewise, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And you're still tuned into the Motown Show on ET Now. And now let me welcome the founders of Battery Smart, Mr. Pulkit Khurana and Mr. Siddharth Sikka, here with us. Gentlemen, and thank you